So you want to buy a new car, and I want to show you now which one to choose. Now we compare the Golf Mark 4 to the Golf Mark 5. Both cars are GTI, and I will explain now what you have to look at and what car to choose. So this is the Mark 4. Now it's 20 years old, and this is the 1.8 liter 20 valve turbo engine. This is the engine code AGU. Basically, from my opinion, it's a very robust engine. You don't have to replace much stuff. It just can run very high mileage when you've done the service properly. And some things which you have to take care of is, for example, the throttle body, which is sometimes contaminated by the venting of the engine, but you can remove this simply in your garage and clean it with brake cleaner or whatever. So you have good idle run again. The ignition coils, the sparks, also some, like the hoses here. Take a look for these hoses. They are getting worn and start to leak. So to replace all those hoses, also underneath the manifold. This is very important. In this case, we also installed a catch can system for the engine venting, but it's not so much needed as on the Golf Mark 5. Power-wise, the AGU, it starts with 150 horsepower, and the S3 Audi TT, for example, there you start with 225 horsepower, and if you do some kind of stage 1 tuning on replacing all this stuff, you will end up with 250 horsepower with a turbo upgrade on this car, or with 265, 270 on the S3 Audi TT, for example. So I will show you the parts which should be replaced. This is the hose which is underneath the manifold, which is important. It's a reinforced one, which is getting very soft in the end, and then it starts to leaking, so you are losing boost. As I mentioned already, spark plugs and coils. On some engines you need the specific adapters. We don't have them here, but this is also not very expensive parts. You can use our Race N75 valve. And then you can put in the blower valve, or you take the adjustable blower valve where you can adjust the preload of the spring. I would recommend to use this one, especially if you plan to run more boost later on, so you are free in adjustments. You can keep this also as an open version, or if you want to have this nice shifting sound, then you can install this one, or you can run it complete closed. Also then the air filter, and maybe the induction hose, you replace this. So this is all peanuts, I will say this, because it's not so expensive to replace those parts and you have a good car. There is also this Jubilation Golf. I'm not sure if this is available in all countries, but in Germany there's a 6-speed gearbox then with a bigger clutch. If you can find this car, it's even better. Right now, if you look in the internet, you can get such a car for 3,000 euro maybe. Then you just invest maybe, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 euros in the engine, and then you have a nice car. Or you do the upgrade to the KO4 turbocharger. Of course, that's more expensive, but I would say maybe 6,000, 7,000 euro, and then the car is really nice made. But as I say, 250 horsepower. Of course, we don't checking how about, how shiny it looks, or about the wheels or the suspension or exhaust. I don't know. We only talk about the engine now, the engine or the engine bay and the gearbox. So now we go to the Mark 5. This is Audi TT with the Golf Mark 5 engine. It's the AXX. So the base power you have 200 already. So we have 50 horsepower more than on the Golf Mark 4. Which Audi and Volkswagen, they always put more and more and more power, which is good for us, of course. And this engine was also, here you have the S3 also, or the Golf Mark 6R, where you have the CDL engine, and then you start, of course, with more power, and you can end up with over 300 horsepower without any big changing of the engine internals. But this engine makes a lot of problems. So you have more parts which needs to be serviced. Of course, this was some kind of new area where Volkswagen was publishing this engine as a direct port injected engine. This was the first one, and of course there are some things or problems or issues which happen after a long time. So And this is why, for example, on the Golf 6 GTI, which we will show in the next video, most of these issues are solved. But on this engine, we have some problems. So one is the debris inside the manifold and the intake channel, because we have the direct porting. We don't have the injectors sitting in the manifold and cleaning the intake. On this engine, it's important to install a catch can system, because otherwise you get too much deposition on the intake channels and also on the injectors. And it's a very big job also to remove the manifold, to clean everything with the so-called Beatty cleaning procedure. And also the injectors, they will start to leak. So we are testing them and making them fresh, but it's a big job to make this job. Another thing is the high pressure fuel pump, because this is needed for the high pressure, which is injected on the piston directly. That's the first time Volkswagen is using this. And this pump is making problems. I have one pump here. So with the pump, there are two issues basically. In the pump itself, there is a seal, because we have high pressure fuel here, and here you have the oil. This is the tappet, which is running on the camshaft later. And this seal starts to get weak, and then you get the fuel inside the oil. You can simply remove the dipstick. You remove the dipstick and put it under your nose. And if you smell fuel, it's already too late. So it's better to replace it. Just replace the complete pump. We offer in the shop the complete pump, already rebuild it with the Autotech kit, already for high power. It's better to replace it directly, otherwise you're risking an engine failure. Because if you have fuel in the oil, that's not so good. The other issue is the tappet. This tappet is DLC coated because it's new, but with the time it gets worn, and then this disappears basically, get in pieces, and it's also in the sump and everything in the engine, and then this is running directly on the lobe. You see this is not normal here, this groove. This groove is caused by the pump. In this case, then you also have to replace the complete camshaft, and this is also a big job and very expensive. Another issue is the electric controlled blow-off valve. It's better to replace the valve by the GFB, not to lose boost. And also the PCV fix. This is also important to replace, but this is very easy to install and not very expensive. And last but not least, you have in the oil sump, you have a module. There are some balance shafts. They are turning to make the engine running more smooth. But this complete module, there is a oil pump internally also, and if this fails, you get also an engine failure, and it's very expensive. It's over 1,000 euro to replace only the module. This is why we offer a kill kit to get rid of this problem. Okay, so basically that's it, and now we make a conclusion to choose your correct car. So here's the conclusion. It's up to you what to decide. If you take the Mark V or the TT with the new engine, the 2-liter TFSI EA113, so this is the code of the engine. Of course, you have to spend more money, and maybe you have to spend more money in the repair or to repair all this stuff which I said, but in the end you have, of course, more power. You can go over 300 horsepower without any problem, just with making stage 1 or stage 2 parts. And the limit is 400 horsepower on that engine before you go for piston and rods and all the stuff to open the engine. So if you have enough money, you can go for that. But I would rather prefer to go for the 1.82 for the Mark IV, because there are not so many things that are wrong on the engine, basically. And you don't have to invest so much money to get the horsepower. But we are limited, let's say, on 250 horsepower, because going over 250, we have to open the engine, make the rods and all the stuff. Of course, we have this, but the decision is up to you.